Hi, this is Sharon, the Modern Savvy CPA. Welcome to my inaugural first, inaugural means first, right? Uh Podcast of Get Wealthy with Me. Get Wealthy with Me is going to be my new podcast, and I have my inaugural guest. I'm so excited to introduce you guys to her. And we are going to be going through my journey on how I went from poverty to prosperity. And every week, one of my guests is going to talk about their journey, and we're going to discuss how our journeys together work, what we see in our different economic climates, if we're in business, what is our business pros and cons, and a bunch of different things that we're going to be chit chatting about. So to get today, we have Christina.
Hi.
She is the Media Maven. We are also birthday sisters.
We are.
So we have so much that we haven't known each other for a long time, but I think we
A
totally hit it
couple
off.
years
Yeah, we hit it
ish.
off. Like we just every time we meet each other, the energy is so
Well,
awesome.
that's just your energy. You're
No,
just
your energy is good too,
okay,
please.
thanks.
Like we couldn't have the same birthday without the same energy. Um, and I just feel kindred spirits with her, and we're one of our energy is totally looking at everything glass half full.
Yeah.
I would say, and we believe that there is no limit to the things that we can accomplish.
Agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about a few things, but most of it is just both of our journeys. And I am 9 years older than her, I think.
How old are you?
I'm 49.
Yeah, I'm 40.
Yeah.
You're
So
right.
we're a decade
You
apart.
would be good at math, Sharon.
I started talking to her about the questions I might want to ask her, and I mentioned economics, and she started yawning.
I'm just
Okay.
really bad at math.
But she's a great businesswoman
Oh, thank
and a
you.
great person to get to know and find out about her journey. Her journey is fascinating. What she does now is fascinating.
Thanks.
So, because this is our inaugural episode, I wanted to talk, and we are so much in a media, social media, any type of marketing world,
Hmm.
and that is her forte. I decided that that's what our first episode is going to be, and then I wanted to have somebody that's not going to be too boring, and she's super exciting.
No pressure.
So,
No pressure.
no pressure.
Okay.
So, first, Christina, I want you to
Yes.
introduce yourself, tell us about your business, and a little bit about you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Christina. And I guess I could kind of go into my background because that kind of tells the story
Yeah.
of how I got to where I am now. Okay. So I started as a TV reporter and anchor. I did that for about 10 years. I started at News 12 The Bronx in New York City. Then I went to the ABC station in Beaumont, Texas. Then the CBS station in Fort Myers. And then the NBC station in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. After standing outside of a crime scene for a long time and having a couple of kids, I said, I'm ready for something that has a much better schedule. So I got into PR. I worked at a PR agency for about 6 months. So instead of being on TV, I helped other businesses land coverage on TV and in other media as well, not just TV. And I had a really bad boss. So after I told him, I Googled the symptoms of a sociopath, and I think he had all of the symptoms and was a sociopath. I left and I started my own business. So I called myself a professional freelancer for a couple of years. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was miserable. So to bring finances into it, to make this relative for the podcast, my income was very inconsistent for the first 2 years. It was like I would have a month where I was making 10,000 and then down to 1,000 the next month and then 2,000 and then $500 and then 6,000. Like it was like that month to month. And I was working like crazy hours, doing everything myself, like servicing clients, being my own bookkeeper, which is just a nightmare when you're not good at math. And and like the sales part of it was the worst. I hated sales. And I had a friend who said, "Oh, my business coach is having an event in Orlando and she's from Canada." So I was like, "Oh, well, I've never met you in person before, so I'll just meet you there." And this business coach at one point she said, if you have not had 4 consecutive months with consistent income, then you need to hire me. And I was like, okay. So I put $15,000 on a credit card because that's how much this coaching package was
Yep.
for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to do every single thing this person tells me to do because I don't like wasting time and I don't like wasting money.
Right.
So I did it. And then I learned so much about sales, about building a team, about running a business, all the things. And I not only paid that money back in a year, but I did it in 6 months.
Awesome.
Thank you. So that is how I went from professional freelancer of doing public relations, publicity, content creation to building an agency and building a team. And that's what I've been doing for 10 years. I still sprinkle a little other things in there. Like I still do TV hosting. I still do some like social media influencer stuff. It's like the random one-off things
Right.
that come my way every once in a while from my background being
Right.
on air. And then I also work for this incredible content management system company where I am their PR manager and communications manager. And I've learned so much because I've never worked internally at a large startup before. And I'm learning from so many other marketing people around me and how marketing teams and sales teams work together. And that has been, I'm a big nerd and I like to learn. So that's been super cool too.
That's awesome. So I'm hearing a few things here.
Did I even
right?
answer your question? I
You
just
answered
went
like
off
5 of my
on
questions.
a tangent.
Yes, you
Okay.
answered 5 of my questions.
Okay.
So I think the podcast is over, and
Have a great day.
have a great day. So I hear a couple of things in there, but I didn't want to interrupt you. You were on a roll. So thank
I'm
God
very
for a
bad
good
at
memory.
that. I always interrupt people. Like I just
I
did
know
to
I
you.
do. I'm trying. I'm trying to
You're
be
doing
better.
great.
Okay. So I heard, first of all, your first job was in the Boogie Down Bronx.
Yeah, my first TV job. Yeah.
Your first TV job was in the Boogie Down Bronx, where I'm from. That's where I grew up.
Do you remember News 12?
I do remember
Okay.
News 12.
Yeah.
I left there 21 years ago, but it was News 12 for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On Cablevision. or
Yes,
something.
Cablevision.
Yes.
Those were the days.
Yes.
So that's number one.
Uh-huh.
So kudos to
Did
the
you know
Bronx.
that before?
I didn't know that your first job was in the Bronx.
Okay.
No.
First TV
I did,
job, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that your first TV job was in the Bronx. I thought I knew it was New York City. You had told me New York City.
Yeah.
But you didn't tell me it was the Bronx.
Which borough?
Yeah.
I learned all about the boroughs.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So kudos to Bronx.
Okay.
To the Bronx. It's always where we start off.
Mm-hmm.
Never want to go back and live there. But always where we start off. Then what I'm hearing also is your journey, right? And your journey, what I'm hearing, what I'm always preaching, because depending on who you talk to, when they talk about me, what am I preaching? To the children, I'm preaching.
Okay. Preach, honey. Take me to church, Sharon.
I'm always preaching about the journey and how we're always learning. You're 40 years old. I'm 49 years old. Every single person I talk to, or every time I talk to a person, I probably am talking to them all the time, or every situation I'm in, it is so amazing on all the things that I'm learning.
Yeah.
You know, like you're talking about the company that you're working with, right? Like you're learning so much about it. You're an accomplished person, but you're still amazed at all the stuff you're learning and opening up your mind to learning. I think we live, we learn. I think that living is learning. Like you can't, like, if you try to say, okay, well, I'm too old to learn something or I'm too old to experience, there's so much out there in the world that it's like, it's amazing what we can go out there and learn.
I am such a nerd. Are you loving the rolling outside, by the way, Chala? Are you loving that? I know she is.
Like, what the heck
Whenever
is that?
I shoot things and there's always like somebody mowing the lawn outside or a freaking bird out the window, and I look around and I look at who's doing audio and I'm like, oh yeah, they're living their best life right now. So I'm such a nerd. I just got a manicure and I was listening to a book called Never Ever. No, not Never Ever. Called Never Enough by a guy named Andrew Wilkinson, From Barista to Billionaire.
Yeah.
So I'm learning while I'm getting my nails done. And I have a subscription to Udemy, to Masterclass, to just this morning I was like in my online course to learn Spanish Like I'm such a nerd who likes to
A
learn.
Puerto Rican that does not know Spanish.
I know. Listen, the Puerto Rican grew up in Ohio with a dad who is like so American.
I don't know. I grew up with Puerto Ricans and Dominicans in the Bronx. So I'm probably more Puerto Rican than you.
Probably. Probably.
Because that's where the Puerto Ricans go first.
I know. The New
okay?
York, they're the New York Ricans.
Yeah, the New Yorkers.
New Yorkers. They're not the
And
Ohio.
it's the Bronx.
They're not the Ohio Ricans.
Here.
I know that's J-Lo's stomping grounds. She's Puerto Rican.
You know, we used to live like 5 blocks from where J-Lo was.
Really?
But not when she was living there.
Did you kick it? No.
No. I can't. Like, I mean, that's all we have in common. We live in the Bronx because I do not have her ass.
Same. I didn't get the Puerto Rican ass, and I didn't get the J-Lo glow is what I call it. I like need a spray tan. But yes, back to what we were talking about. I love to learn. I need to get better at implementing what I learn, though. I need to stop like learning because it's fun, but I need to implement what I learn more, I think.
So like you, I have during COVID, one of the things that I did was I read a lot.
Oh, you did? What did you
And
read?
I am a lot of romance.
Ooh, I love it.
Suspense romance.
I love thrillers.
It has to have, it can't be just a romance, right?
Yeah, you
it
need
has
murder.
to have,
Someone's got to be murdered.
yes, it has to have
Yeah.
some type of a intrigue.
Or somebody's got to be missing.
Yeah,
they're not
it
murdered.
missing, murdered. It has to be, there has to be some type of a
Yes,
story
like
behind it.
Page Turner.
Yes. That's, I can't just read a regular romance.
No, I know. Okay, so what were like your favorite books? Like what's your, like if you had, so like I always do the book recommendation thing. If you could recommend one fiction and one nonfiction book, what would it be?
So there's a book that, so I started doing, listening to, remember I'm doing this interview? You need to stop
Yeah, I know.
asking me questions.
You guys, I'm
You're
going,
used to that,
I know.
but I could answer those questions.
Okay, good. Those are good ones.
So I read Colleen
Hoover.
Yes. I read her, which one was that?
It
The,
Ends With Us?
Verity?
Verity. Yeah.
That was a
Wild
book. That was very
You
interesting.
know it's going to be a movie.
It is?
Yes, and Anne Hathaway is going to be the star.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, that was an interesting book at all. I mean, the way it was going, it was.
Yes.
I like when it ends nicely though, but that book ended with questions.
Yeah. Like, is the mom good or bad?
Yes. Like, so I can't.
We need to ask Colleen.
Yes, we need to ask Colleen. So I don't like when it ends like that. That means I got to do it again. You know? And with the real, like the other romance books that I've read, I read a lot of military romance. So
okay.
there's this one now, I forgot the author, but it was on this fictional town called Chance Creek, and it was actually based on a reality TV.
Okay, yeah, that's
story.
Fun. Yeah,
and they were building the sustainable city, so they had tiny houses, and they were supposed to build a city that is self-contained. So they were building tiny houses. They were eating like what's that big animal? I think it's called
a buffalo.
Buffalo.
Shut up! Buffalo. I just got it. I just made that up.
It's buffalo bison. Is
that
what it is? Bison.
I think like one's a male and one's a female.
Yeah, I don't know the animal thingies. They were doing their own garden. They were like but to get the support, the sponsorship for this, there's this really big millionaire that wanted to make their town into a reality TV show, and every episode they each had to get married. So their goal is there's 12 of them. They have to get married, mail order brides.
Okay, that is the most ridiculous book I've ever heard in my life.
It's a series, so there's 12 books. So they each have to get married. But let me tell you, there was like intrigue all through the stuff. It was
there would have to be
mail order brides that they were doing, and they had to have 2 kids, or else they're not going to get the money.
Well, I'm not going to read that book, but let me tell you a book that I did like that I think you would approve of. The nonfiction, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Have you read that?
I have not read that.
I love that book.
That's
that book will light a fire under your ass to make some money.
So did it light a fire under your ass?
Yeah.
To make some money?
Yeah, that's book. Like I don't like to read books more than once because I'm like, there's so many great books out there. But that one, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And then the other one, which is not so much a learn book, but a great nonfiction is called How Starbucks Saved My Life. And it's about this guy, how after the recession started, he got divorced. His kids didn't like him. He lost his job on Wall Street and he ended up getting a job at Starbucks and going down the rabbit hole of like learning about all these coffee beans and where they come from. And he's like, oh, a happy life isn't being this crazy ass rich guy on Wall Street. It's just enjoying your job at Starbucks.
So talking about the rich guy on Wall Street, right? I was reading an article. I read a lot of nonfiction articles, but I read fiction books.
Okay.
So most of the things that I read that are nonfiction is articles. I don't read a lot of nonfiction books, except if there's like self-help, like,
Yeah. Like personal development.
yes, personal development things. So the last article I read, it was on an interview with Bill Gates. So there he was being criticized because he said to the guy, or the guy asked him something like this, and he said, yes, my daughter needs to marry a rich man.
I cannot. I'm already pissed.
Okay, well, listen. Wait. So then the guy's like, well, that's kind of horrible. Why does your daughter need to marry a rich man? He said, you don't understand. You need to understand the definition of rich. Well, for me, it's wealth. It's not rich, right? So I call it wealthy. So I'm going to change his word from rich to wealthy.
Okay.
So
I'm
he's
so
saying his
pissed.
daughter needs to marry a wealthy man. So then the guy's like, well, that's kind of conceited, right? And then he's like, well, explain yourself. So he started explaining himself. He says, you need to understand what the definition of wealth is. Wealth does not mean you necessarily mean you have a lot of money and that's it. He says, because there are lottery winners that may have $300 million. And in 5 years, they have a lot of money today. In 5 years, they don't have a lot of money. Wealth is the potential. So his daughter doesn't necessarily have to marry a wealthy man, but she has to have, when it comes to money, but he has to have the potential to make
but
money.
why are we not saying my son needs to marry a rich woman?
I don't
Or
think,
my
does
son
he have a
needs-
son?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm not
but
talking
I'm
about
going to
that.
Google it.
I'm just going to say.
You know why that lights a fire under my ass?
Tell me.
Because I was reading another book called The Millionaire Next Door. And before I even got into like chapter 3, it said Bill Gates does have a son. He's got 2 daughters and a son. Okay.
Well, the guy asked him a question about his daughter. They didn't ask him a question about his son. So he was just answering
Anyway,
it.
The Millionaire Next Door.
Tell me.
In the book, the author says something about the sons are good to make their own money, but the daughters will need their dad's help.
Well, that's bullshit.
Something along those lines.
That's bullshit because guess what? Christina and I are both the breadwinners in our family.
Yeah.
And we have vaginas. Which means we are women.
We don't have smaller brains, despite what some of you men may think.
And we might be alienating you guys on our first episode, but
this is a feminist podcast, and we believe in equal rights here.
But we are the breadwinners. We do not feel like we need to limit ourselves, right? And we don't think I do the same thing. I talk to my mother all the time. I have 2 sons at home, and I'm teaching them, yes, chivalry is not dead, but it's a 2-side coin.
Yeah.
You don't, traditional roles of males and females are not exactly what they are.
No.
I have to agree that males and females biologically are different. So I'm not going to, my 6'2" son has to help me sometimes to take things down. I can't.
You can reach the top shelf better than me.
Yes, you can reach the top shelves. They're stronger than I am. So I'm not going to go lift something that I know that they can help me with. I do believe they still need to open the door for their grandma and help her out and that type of thing. But we don't have smaller brains.
That just makes me think of the Anchorman. You're just a woman with a small brain. Remember
Exactly.
that?
I know. It's like, no, we don't. We might have smaller bodies, but the brains,
depending.
the brains, are on our neck might not be the right thing when it comes to concussions and soccer, where my son plays. But we do not have smaller brains. I actually think our brains are more organized. We're
Yes.
capable
Like
of,
mentally, we're capable.
yeah,
Like mentally, we are stronger mentally. And I think
yeah.
statistically, when you look at, I don't want to digress, but statistically, when you look at a lot of things men do versus what women do, statistically, women are much more mentally and emotionally stable than men.
When I
That'll be a different
and
podcast for
I'm
a
gonna
different
get that
day.
will be a different. We have so many podcasts right now that we just like just in the last few minutes. My old boss, she had two sons, and this was 20 something years ago. And one of her sons was in math class, and her son was complaining because he was an overachiever that there was this one girl that's always getting better grades than him in mathematics. So she turns to him and she says, right then and there with us, she's like, well, Taylor, uh, girls are smarter. You're my son and I love you, but girls are smarter. And when it comes to math, you know, that's just a
funny.
thing. So, yes, girls, I'm a girl that has two sons, so I'm a boy mom. But there are certain things about girls that just biologically, mentally,
But I will say this girl is not better at math.
she's better in a lot of things.
At other things, but math is not my strong suit.
She's better in a lot of things.
That side of my brain doesn't work. The math science brain is a little, that side, whatever side that is. It's the other side. The creative side.
The creative side.
There's more juices flowing over there.
That's okay. We all have our gifts.
Yes.
So that's the other thing that I'm hearing, that, you follow your gifts. You didn't necessarily go into a completely different field than you used to be in.
Right.
Because you're still using those gifts
Yeah.
that God gave you and you've developed and you used your free will to further your career into where it needs to be, because there's so many different avenues, right?
And sometimes I think, though, like, why do I do what I do? It's like, well, I don't know how to do anything else. But because I work in media and media has evolved in so many different ways,
Right.
and you can like niche down to a certain thing you do in media,
Right.
or niche down to a certain client you work with. There's so many different ways I could take what I do or try different things. So I think that's good too. Like, people always need to be open-minded, because there's so, like, you probably thought when you started doing what you were doing, talking about money, like, you probably, like, there weren't even podcasts. You didn't know you'd be recording a money podcast, talking to people about making money and whatnot. Like, there's just so many different ways you can make money now, and so many different platforms to do it, that for me, like, using creativity and storytelling, like, it was all about, how do I tell stories? So I can do it on the news for a TV station. I can do it on my blog. I can do it on an Instagram reel. You can do it on a podcast. Like, there's so many different ways. And it's like, well, which way do I like best? And which way is going to pay me? Those are like the two things I always go back to.
Which is should be not just in media. It's a career thing too. So what I think, one of the things that the kids are struggling, Gen Z and millennials, which is what I'm focusing on with our
I
podcast.
love that we call them the kids.
The kids.
I'm one of them. I'm the kid. I'm a millennial.
You're a millennial?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're an older millennial. The kids, which is what we're focusing on now, it's so loud out there, right? And there's so much stuff out there that they're getting confused. One is they don't believe, they have the thoughts about the different careers is so traditional, because schools are not even, the colleges are not.
They're like in the Stone Age.
Stone Age, exactly. Yeah. So I feel like it's up to us to educate them about the different careers, right? Yeah. So if you could have done a career in marketing, right? Mm-hmm. In school. What does that mean? It's not the traditional marketing. No,
it's so different.
Someone doing an accounting degree, I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA, but I'm not the typical accountant. I'm not an auditor. I'm not a tax person, but I'm a tax person, but that's just a tiny part of my career before. Now I'm going into teaching people about money and how to have intentional money management, right? So there's so many different avenues in each traditional, if we want to call it, a marketing degree or an accounting degree. We need to educate the kids about what it is that's involved in these degrees, and we're not doing that enough, and that's hampering us producing the right workforce.
And also, like, going back to Bill Gates, which is probably where you were going before I totally digressed, and drove us just off the cliff. Um, I feel like it also is everybody has a different term. Like, I guess in that situation, it was what is rich or what is wealthy, but it's also what is success. Because I think traditionally success is having a lot of money.
Right.
Well, for me, if I had all the money in the world, but I'm working 24/7 and I'm miserable working,
Same.
I'm not successful.
Same.
I want all the time in the world to sit down and read my books and be comfy and watch my garbage Real Housewives. Like, drink my Coke, eat my pizza. Like, that's success for
That's
me.
success. Yes,
It's
absolutely.
not like working, like commuting to an office where maybe you have a beautiful view and a glass corner office. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
I don't want that.
You don't want to tell them where my podcast studio is, do
Exactly.
you?
It is.
I don't have a glass office, let's just say.
No, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. It is not in a storage unit like I thought.
Close enough.
It is beside a storage unit, but it's not in a storage unit. Yeah, I just think success is so different for and then you always like I remember I was like, "Oh, I'm going to get a job in TV and I'm going to work my way up and I'm going to be an anchor in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm from."
Right.
Like that's the end goal. And then once I started in the business, I was like I got to Miami and I was like, well, going from Miami to Columbus would be like a demotion because Miami's a bigger market than
Right.
Columbus is. So then I didn't want to go to Columbus anymore. And then I had I met my husband who then got in the golf industry. You can't golf year round in Columbus because it's cold there. So like the goals change.
The goals change.
So then the definition of success changes when the goals change. And I think you just have to be open-minded to all of this throughout your journey.
So that's the one thing Chala always hear me say. I make plans because I totally believe in making plans.
Yeah.
There's always a goal.
Yeah.
But I'm almost planning that goal is not going to be the end goal.
Yeah, you got to be flexible.
You got to be flexible. So I always say I make plans and God refines it.
Okay.
So because I know I have to make a plan that's in us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's in us to make plans. But we also have to be flexible that when we're starting out, we don't know enough. We haven't learned enough. We never learn enough.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I just had a lunch before I came here with a couple of girls who have a marketing agency. They do branding, like design for promotional materials. They design websites. They're 2 years in. They're like overworked and they're really afraid to delegate. And I remember that. Like I remember
Yes.
being afraid to delegate, remembering trusting people to like
Yes.
do business behind your name and your business
Yep.
name and you know potentially ruin your reputation and like
Yep.
I remember all of that and I was telling them like you have to like I've lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with this, but I remember I had a really good point. It was around the lines of like you have to pivot. You have to
Be open-minded.
Be open-minded.
The goals change.
Everything changes. And I was telling them, you don't know what you don't know.
You
Like
don't
they're
know what you
asking me,
don't
they're
know.
like, I just feel that's where I was going. That's what we said. That they're like, oh, I just feel stupid. Like you don't know what you don't know until you experience something. And somebody can tell you something 10 times. But until you experience it,
You
like,
don't know.
That's why failing is the best way to learn. I tell my
Yes.
kids all the time. They get upset about stuff. And I'm like, who cares? You
Yes.
learned.
Yes.
Now you know better than somebody telling you.
My other saying is what's not a blessing is a lesson.
Oh my
I'm full of them.
That's a good one.
You got to tell
Say
the kids
it again.
that.
You got to put on a shirt.
What's not a blessing is a lesson.
What's not a blessing is
So
a
if
lesson.
you're-
That sounds so.
When I started in 2007 with my own business, I was a freelancer too
Yeah.
in those days.
Yeah.
When I started BMP Tax and Accounting as a CPA, I grew that business just by myself and was so afraid to hire somebody else. So afraid
Yeah.
to manage people.
Oh, okay.
So afraid to let go and let
Yeah,
somebody
let go
else
of
under my
control.
license. Yes, because it's a 20-hour exam that you study 4 months for, and if you lose it, so you're all so afraid. And because of that, I did not grow that business. I did not grow that tax
Yeah,
business.
you won't grow if you do that.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling them. I was like, look at every single service-based business. Does the owner do everything because they're afraid to delegate? No.
not a successful one.
But every single like book I read, podcast I read, they always say this is the hardest part. I wish I would have done this earlier.
Absolutely.
And now it's like I can't even imagine not to, like that's my worst nightmare is having to do everything in my business.
Yes.
When it was like the opposite at the beginning. Like I was afraid. It's like that's my worst nightmare to trust somebody. And now it's like, dear God, do it all. It's
well,
opposite.
I'm learning about the delegation process with the
You have to
modern
just do
savvy.
it. You have to just do it.
We're doing it.
You have to create systems and processes. That's what I told these ladies. You like literally just write down, record every single thing you want them to do. And it's more work at first.
It is more work
At first, you're going to be like, oh my God, what like a waste of time because I'm paying this person and I'm doing everything and I'm showing them. But after that, it saves you time.
Absolutely. We're going through that with a women's group that you and I had once belonged to.
Oh, yes.
You know, that
Well, you still belong to it.
I still belong to it. I co-chair it right here in Wellington. And one of the things is the growing pains, redeveloping the group. Mm-hmm. It was so much freaking work the last 5 months. Mm-hmm. But I know I have to do this part because I believe everything that I take part in, I have to leave it better than I started. But I keep telling people, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much more work. This is so much more work. But I'm like, we have to do the work now in order for it to be easier later.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you don't have the systems, then it's all in your head, only you can do it. Mm-hmm. But if you have the systems, then anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Right?
You're amazing with the group. That's how I met Sharon in the group.
We actually didn't. We met with Stephanie. Stephanie Edison, our realtor, is getting a plug today.
We didn't meet with her.
We met with her at Fem City.
Oh, that's when we first met?
That's when we first met, when you did a marketing thing there. Barely we said hello to each other, but that's where we met. We got to know each other with the group.
Oh, okay. All right.
See? Your memory's going bad. You're old.
I'm an old lady.
She's an old lady.
I just want to go home and read my books.
That's all. She's yawning at economics.
Oh, yeah. Ask me the economic question so I can embarrass myself.
You answered all the economics questions already along the way.
Thank the Lord.
So what
I thought you were going to start asking me about the price of eggs and shit, and I was going to get all flustered. Speaking of the price of eggs.
We don't talk about the price of eggs.
Okay, because you know it's ridiculous. I also just saw like the crazy amount of money people have spent on Cyber Monday, like in the billions. Like $15 million a minute. I'm like, oh, I thought we were worried about the price of eggs. What the hell's going on?
Oh, inflation is really bad. So that's the other thing, right? I watch CNBC all the time. So I talk.
You watch the financial news
all the time. So I hear them talk about recession. They've
been saying that for years, though.
They've been saying it for years. Yet the stock market is at record high.
Yeah, I don't get it. All that stuff's over my head. That's what we need you for, Sharon.
And people are buying everything. So let's talk about that. I want to talk about consumerism.
Okay.
Because marketing is playing a big role in it.
I need to get off Amazon.
Yeah.
Speaking of consumerism, I can't open the app. And oh my gosh, this TikTok shop and Instagram. Now these apps, they make it so easy.
That's my point.
You don't even need to leave the app to buy the garbage that I am buying.
That we don't need.
I know. I need to be a minimalist.
Well, that's where I'm going with this here. Is that we are being, lack of a better word, brainwashed by the marketing.
They just make it so easy, which means they're doing their job pretty damn well.
Yeah.
If we're buying the shit, they're doing a good job.
Shit, yeah. And we're buying the shit, and then we go into credit card debt.
Oh, well, I don't do all that. That's not smart.
That's not smart.
No. You buy the shit if you can pay it off when the bill comes. See? That's the only time you're allowed to buy the shit.
I'm teaching you there. That's it.
That's it. You got to pay the bill when it comes. The only time I will allow it is in a medical emergency. And that's another conversation for another day.
We're going to have to have
and this, don't take this financial advice from me, but you can get away with not paying your medical.
Okay, let's make that another podcast, please. Health insurance is one of my pet peeves.
Oh, I'm not even talking about health insurance.
And medical in America is another pet peeve.
It's all.
So we're going to have to talk about that on a different podcast.
Have somebody else on to talk about that.
Yeah. But I just want to talk about the consumerism, how we are mindlessly spending.
Yes, because it's so easy. I think because it's so easy, and people say this, but I don't really. Maybe I just don't believe people are this dumb, but that people spend money on fancy shit to post it on Instagram and look cool. Like, I hope people aren't that dumb, but
people are that dumb. People are that dumb.
People are really doing that.
People are that dumb.
They're really buying shit just to look cool on the internet.
Yeah, they're traveling the world on their credit cards.
Just to look cool on the internet?
Yeah.
You guys just use AI and like Photoshop your jet in a picture. That's so dumb.
It is.
I can't.
It is that. Do you know half of what's on Instagram? You know.
No, I know, but I just feel like I can't with that. Like, who gives a shit? You need therapy if you are going into debt to look cool on the internet.
So I thought about it like this, right? We have years ago you used to see what your neighbors are doing. If they drive a nice car,
okay, yeah,
you see
like
it
out the window.
Yeah, whatever, out the window or going somewhere or wherever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You used to see what your neighbors are doing. Now we don't see that except on Instagram or Facebook.
And then people just fake it to look cool.
They fake it to look cool because they can fake it,
which is wild.
So that's one of the problems is that people are looking at all of that and thinking everybody's life is perfect, but nobody's life is perfect.
Oh yeah, and then you always see like with the celebrities, like the happy couple, and then it's like, oh, we're getting a divorce or whatever else.
Yeah. So don't believe what Christina's saying with all the marketing out there. Is don't believe everything that you see. It is a story. It's storytelling, right?
It is. I mean, yeah.
It doesn't have to be a true story.
No,
but
that's
it's a story.
True. Or it's like everybody says it's your highlight reel.
It's your highlight reel.
That's why when I get on social media, I'm just an idiot and I don't even care. Like, I'm just like
mindlessly looking at it, right?
Yeah, no. And then when I post stuff,
you're just mindlessly.
I'm just like I use these heatless curlers to go to sleep. And I posted like, this is what my husband is so lucky. This is what he gets to go to bed with. And he calls me Little Bo Peep. Because I look like Little Bo Peep with this heatless curler situation. I'm like, honey, you are so lucky.
You're so lucky.
It's not cute.
This is what I look like.
I'm like, but in the morning, look, it's so worth it.
Yeah, it's magical.
It's so easy. But I post that shit on Instagram because I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. I've been trying to educate people for the last year and a half on Instagram. And you know what Christina told me? She told me you're too educational.
Oh,
you need to make it fun. Like, you need to make it fun.
Like, you know what you could do? You could do a going to bed skincare routine while you're telling people about your Roth IRA or whatever the hell you talk about.
You hear? Chala, we gotta do
you hear that, Chala?
Skincare routine.
Go into her bathroom with her before bed.
And watch me
and then you just cut it all together. She'll spend 10 minutes doing her skincare routine.
Are we doing one of those? Is that going to be one of our reels?
Telling you about all the ways to invest your money so you are wealthy. And you cut that 10 minutes down to 1 minute and it'll be like, you know why? People will keep watching because there's so much movement and you're doing something and we want to see the finished product. So we'll stay till the end.
Okay. We're going to do one of those.
And then you can do the opposite and do getting ready and putting the makeup on and then the hair. Get
wealthy with me is going to be getting ready with me.
Yeah. Get my face.
Look for that reel.
Yeah. There you go. And get unready with me.
Get unready with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about your challenges. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, how does your cultural background come into how you perceive success or how you're working with success and things like that? Does it come in?
I don't think the cultural background comes in as much as like seeing my parents.
Right.
My mom worked for something to do, not necessarily to make money. My dad was the money maker, and my dad was so frugal. Like, still is. And so
was he frugal or was he cheap? You want me to explain that?
You can explain it. I know what you mean, and I'll say both.
Okay.
Yes, but go ahead and explain it.
So I think for me, I'm frugal.
Yes, I think I'm frugal too. So no, I don't want to say frugal is like a bad thing.
Yes,
I'm smart with my money.
That's what frugality is.
Yes, I'm smart with my money. I don't waste money.
Right. Not wasting money is what frugal is. But being cheap is being penny wise, pound foolish. because you're like totally depriving yourself.
Of what you want or
Yes,
what you need.
yes.
Because you're being cheap. Yeah.
So it goes back to what wealth really means,
Yes.
right? So it goes back to wealth is not just the money,
Mhm.
right? It's the experience. It is the prioritization, right? Like I always tell everybody that people are like, oh, I can't afford to do this or I can't do this. I have a priority list.
Mhm.
The list gets longer, but I move things up and down on
Yes.
the list.
It's not that you can't afford it. It's that it's not a priority.
It's not a priority.
That's a big difference.
So that's how frugality works,
Yes.
right? We prioritize differently.
Yes.
Cheap people are just not going to do it because
Yes.
it costs money.
Yes.
So was that Dad?
Yeah, Dad was cheap. Dad was cheap. So I learned. So I used to be cheap, and then once I like had read some books, listened to some podcasts,
Personal development.
jumped on the Sharon train. I was like more frugal, and I just don't want to waste money. I don't
No.
like wasting time. I don't like wasting money. So
Absolutely.
I'm not going to do it.
Absolutely. So stop buying shit on the TikTok shop because you're wasting
I know.
money.
I know. I bought this sweatshirt on TikTok shop. No, I bought it on Temu, which is basically the freaking TikTok shop. Let's be real.
Let's not talk about Temu.
I'm like such a sucker for shirts and things with words on them, but I need to stop by. I have enough.
Well, that's what it is. I think it's not that. I think in our American lifestyle, me too. I struggle with this, right? Shopping is one of my forte, and
They just make it so easy.
they make it so easy. Like I look at a shoes at Macy's and Saks or something like that. I get 10 emails. Did you forget something? You have great taste. What's happening?
You have great taste. They flatter
Yes,
you.
they're like
You left something in your car. No
almost
shit, I left it there
gone.
on
It's almost
purpose.
gone. And I'm like, oh God, did I subscribe to this damn thing? It's a pain in the ass. It's just like, no, I was window shopping. You know that in
And
the
I
olden days.
accidentally got in my car.
Yes, an accident.
I
just
changed my
put
mind
it in
once it was
there.
in my car. But again, that's good marketing. When
No,
you
that's
leave-
great
When
marketing.
you leave something in your cart and they freaking follow you around the internet, like, that's so smart.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's great marketing, but it is eating into our priority list.
It is.
You know,
It is. And taking up too much space in the closet.
taking up too. We don't need to have that because if you don't know what is in your closet, you're not going to be able to utilize those wonderful
Then
things.
it's a waste of money.
It's a waste
out
of
of
money.
sight, out of mind. It's a waste of money.
A waste of money. Remember, I'm going to give you this speech
Shop
again.
smart.
Okay, stop shopping at the TikTok shop, and stop shopping at the Instagram shop or the Facebook shop or whatever shop
Get
it
off
is.
Temu. Get off Shein. Get off Amazon. You don't
No matter
need
how
it.
cheap it is, you don't need it.
Let me tell you something I bought.
Oh Lord.
My husband was like, what the hell am I going to do with this? I bought like a 42-piece Tupperware set because I love the home edit and I love organization. And I'm like, honey, we take everything in the pantry out of the boxes
And you put it in
and
that.
we put them all in these clear containers. And then we display them beautifully in the pantry and the refrigerator. And he goes, that is the least practical thing I've heard in my entire life. And I am not doing that. And I was like, but I just bought these off the TikTok shop. And it's going to look so pretty when you
Well,
open
I
the
bought it
pantry.
after Amazon when I was doing my pantry, so I do have lots of those. I have to tell you,
And it looks so
because it's an
pretty.
organization
But
thing.
nobody in my family cares about things being organized. And it breaks my heart.
I know. We have to. That's a whole other show.
How many podcasts are we going to do on all these topics?
We are, but today I think we're gonna have to finish up.
Okay.
So I want to thank you so much for being my first guest,
So happy to be here.
and we're gonna have a Christina 2.0
Yeah.
because we have so much more to talk about.
Clearly.
So it's a to be continue.
TBC.
But love you, my birthday sister,
Love
and
you.
thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And I am also gonna take some of Christina's. She's gonna help me do well too. So we're gonna work. She's gonna help me market, and I'm gonna help her stop shopping on TikTok shop. We're gonna work with each
Good
other.
luck to you,
Use all of
Sharon.
our strengths, okay? I'm gonna remind her how much we're getting brainwashed
We're
by
suckers.
her marketing.
We're suckers.
Thank you guys. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next show. Bye.